Federal investigators have now taken over the crash site at Scottsdale Airport, where a pilot died yesterday in a crash.
Steve Nielsen was there immediately after the crash happened yesterday and joins us live there now with the latest on the investigation. Steve.
Yeah, well, we're still waiting for some key details from the NTSB on this crash, including the identity of the person who died here. As we take a look at what this scene looks like now, both of these jets are still here. We've seen about a half dozen, maybe more NTSB investigators combing this scene. They're walking along the runway. They're walking around these jets. Today, I also spoke with an aviation expert who revealed a lot more on the landing gear these types of jets use. In the moments after impact, Gordon Johnson's camera rolled as the fire department arrived.
Oh, the engine's still running.
They doused the engine, shutting it down while the smell of fuel filled the air.
There was no fire. That could have been massively catastrophic. The airplane wing and the tip tanks were full of fuel.
Tuesday, our cameras rolled while officials investigated the crash site. The NTSB has now taken over the investigation. The collision captured on surveillance cameras at Scottsdale's Airport Monday afternoon. The plane registered to Motley Crue band member Vince Neil had a problem with its landing gear, veering off the runway and hitting another jet. Neil was not on board. The pilot died.
But I saw the gear get sheared off and tumbled behind the airplane.
Gordon witnessed the crash. He once flew that same plane in 2005, brokering a sale. He told us about the landing gear on jets just like this.
The system's energized through electrical initially, micro switches, which open shuttle valves and hydraulic valves, which forces hydraulic fluid into the gear system and forces it to be down.
2 passengers were injured badly. Another was also treated at the hospital.
It could have been worse. It's still really bad.
And to show you how recent all of this still is, there's still a smell of jet fuel in the air here at the scene. As far as how long all this is going to take to start to get a little bit more information from NTSB on this investigation, typically in a case like this, that preliminary report they put out takes 2 to 3 weeks. That final report can take 12 months to 24 months. Reporting live, Steve Nielsen, Fox 10 News.
Steve, thanks. A deadly shooting investigation underway in Phoenix. This happened near 51st Avenue and Indian School. People arriving on the scene found 2 men shot. Both were taken to the hospital. One of them died. Police looking into what led up to that shooting and the confrontation. For a brief time, nearby Cartwright Elementary was in lockdown while police investigated.
New information this hour on a crash in Tempe. A bizarre story caused by a man driving himself to the hospital.
And Phoenix police now say he was not shot in the head as initially reported. They thought he'd been shot in the head and then somehow drove himself to the hospital. Instead, he had some kind of injury. We don't know the extent. And they also say he was a suspect in a domestic dispute. Fox 10's Lauren Clark joins us now to try to sort all of this out. I would say the story is shifting.
That is correct, John and Christina. Fueled by what appears to be either a misunderstanding or miscommunication. You know, part of the problem is we're dealing with 2 different agencies. We're right on the border of Tempe and Phoenix, and sometimes things can either get lost in translation or they see a situation and it's misunderstood. A little bit more on that in just a moment. But for a very long time, this road right here was shut down for traffic. There was crime scene tape really covering this entire stretch of this area. When we pulled up here around 1:30 and this crash happened around 12, we saw 3 cars just completely crunched here in the road. We saw a silver car, we saw a white van, and a black truck. Now, we also saw crews towing those cars and having to sweep up actually a lot of that shattered glass and debris as a result of the collision. Now, Tempe police originally said that there was a man shot in the head driving himself to the hospital when he got into a collision with 2 cars. Phoenix police took over the investigation for the shooting element, and they think that's not quite exactly what happened. We're going to go into that in just a moment, but we did speak to someone who was hit by a car. He said that car came out of nowhere, and he thinks it was the suspect. Here's what he had to say about how fast it was going.
Yeah, he was going pretty fast. I mean, from the looks of it, he was going over 60, 70 miles an hour. So, yeah, he was going fast.
Yeah, we actually saw that white van that he said he was driving. The airbags deployed there, and he was also feeling very exhausted, although he did not have any serious injuries. So Phoenix police, when they took over this investigation, they were trying to figure out exactly what happened here with this shooting. They found out that the man who was driving was involved in some type of domestic violence incident, and a family member got involved. They say he received the injury there, although they do not think he was shot. He was bleeding from his head, though, and then the collision happened. Phoenix police say that man did not communicate on the scene. He stayed silent while he was bleeding, so perhaps this is how some of that miscommunication occurred. They say he's going to be okay, and once he's released from the hospital, they're anticipating charging him with domestic violence. So quite a bit of a story to unfold here, but this road is open in the meantime. Reporting live here in Tempe, Lauren Clark, Fox 10 News.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. The Montana man linked to the 2019 disappearance of a Glendale teen, Alicia Navarro, has been sentenced to prison. Edmund Davis is his name, pleaded guilty to possessing child sex abuse materials and could spend the next 50 years behind bars. You may remember Navarro was 14 at the time in 2019 when she vanished, but in 2023, authorities found her living with Davis near Billings, Montana. Police do not believe that she was a victim in this case. Navarro has since been reunited with her mother.
Is it possible snake season has arrived early because of the warm temperatures? Well, an Eloy man recovering after he was bitten by a rattlesnake at his home last week. Tommy Neberdowski was turning on a water valve in his backyard in that you know these things are just underground. You pull the plate off and all of your hardware is in there to turn the stuff on and off. Well, he opened it up. He got a surprise. He was bitten by a rattlesnake. He says he first checked for a black widow because they hang out in there too, but the rattlesnake was there. It's a routine he does when he gets home from work to turn the water on. He didn't see or hear anything. He thought it was safe, but the snake was hiding in the corner and bit his left hand. Neberdowski went to Banner Health, drove himself there in Casa Grande, where he was given a dose of antivenom, and then he was flown to Banner in Central Phoenix, where he stayed in the intensive care unit for a couple of days.
It's a scary situation. I've never felt such a sense of urgency to get to the ER. You know what I mean? I knew my life depended on it. And a rattlesnake venom is kind of like it'll eat your flesh right off the bone. It's just a really nasty poison.
Well, thankfully, he tells us his hand is fully recovered. Officials at Banner Health say it's very uncommon to see rattlesnakes and bites in February, but people should be aware because the weather's been a little bit warmer. If you see a rattlesnake, don't remove it. Call a professional, and if you're bitten, call 911.
A fire burning north of the valley is forcing evacuations tonight. Sky Fox over the Brady fire in Yavapai County today. The fire has burned some 400 acres at this point. People living north of Pine Flats have been ordered to evacuate. The Red Cross has set up an evacuation shelter at Mayer High School. There's also an animal shelter at Glassford Hill Middle School in Prescott Valley. Anyone with large livestock can bring their animals to the laser shelter.
Well, how about this? We've got some winter weather headed our way to Arizona later this week.
Snow up north, rain here in the valley. Meteorologist Erica Horvatine is here with what we can expect. Erica.
Well, yeah, we're going to be seeing 2 rounds of precipitation across the state, but the first one that arrives tomorrow is going to be extremely light. So unfortunately, I don't expect it to bring any relief to where the Brady fire is burning. But here's a look at the timeline for different parts of this state on when you can expect precipitation. The high country will see some of that tomorrow through tomorrow evening, and then we are going to be drying out in the high country through Thursday, at least morning and midday, before the next storm arrives. And this is going to be the impactful storm system that's going to be bringing rain and snow to the high country from pretty much Thursday afternoon and evening all the way through Friday night, whereas the valley isn't expecting any precipitation until we get to around Friday morning, pretty early on through Friday evening. And here's a look at the first snow forecast, so kind of an idea of what we could see in different parts of the high country in terms of snowfall accumulation. However, I will say that things are still changing on the models. They are, however, in better agreement than they have been so far. So it's a positive sign, and it's looking like Flagstaff is in hopefully for a lot of snow. Right now, the snowfall forecast looks to be around 5 to 12 inches, and those higher amounts are going to be in the higher terrain closer to the San Francisco peaks, whereas further south and to the southeast, Sedona, Show Low, Payson are really not expecting much from this storm. It will be a mix of some rain, wintry mix, and snow. It all will depend on what time of day it is, and we're looking at a trace to 1 or 2 inches in those areas. And Heber also seeing around a trace to 1.5 inches. So again, this forecast is still developing, but it is looking promising around the peaks.